Hey guys, Anfield here. Welcome back to a new guide for Black Desert Online. Today's guide is all about node wars. Recently, there's been a massive surge in players, starting with the big events around the 4-year anniversary of the game that has helped many new players get into and catch up in BDO, followed by the fact that many people have been under lockdown and quarantine, causing huge boosts in gaming populations. Because getting to a node war gear score, especially with tier 1 caps, is easier than ever before, I want to help new players looking to join node war guilds for the first time ever, as well as potential new node war guilds that want to form and give it a shot. So this guide is all to help these players. Tier 1 nodes are essentially where you should start. Tier 2 is a massive step up in terms of gear your character will need in order to be impactful, whereas tier 1 has 3 levels of capped node wars: easy, medium, and hard, each with increasing gear caps. You can view these by hovering over the tier 1 nodes on the world map. So if you hover over, let's say, a hard node, it'll tell you that it's 270 AP, 320 DP, for example. Essentially, with some quest accessories and the suppressed boss gear, or even the Oasis gear, depending on whether these events are still running when you watch this guide, you can immediately hop into tier 1 easy node wars, if not medium as well. The AP DP listed is actually not what your sheet stats read. So instead, it also includes your hidden stats, which means it's much easier to hit these gear caps than you might think. So for example, if the AP cap on, say, tier 1 easy is 230 AP, you actually don't need 230 listed AP, because it includes bonus AP as well that's like hidden AP. So what are node wars? Well, node wars are guild versus guild PvP content in Black Desert that require you to destroy the other guild's fort in order to win. They can last a maximum of 2 hours and take place in the evening, although you should look up the exact time for your server and time zone. Guilds build usually within 1 day of the start of that node war. Sometimes you can actually build it 2 days in advance, but usually within 1 day, although anyone in your guild can see the fort you've built as well as the structures. No one else can until the actual start of the node war. So they're basically invisible for everyone else but your guild until the actual node war begins. Successfully winning a node will automatically send silver to your guild's bank, which can then be paid out by the guildmaster. You can also get medals from node wars, which can be exchanged for various goods at guild NPCs in major towns. So if you join a node war guild, what do you need to know? While I would hope most guilds would help you with this, I will go over the various roles. Most guilds have a defense team. This is where they might start you out. There are critical roles in defense that aren't directly hard, yet they are still critical. However, more experienced players may prefer to be in a main raid, playing the class abilities that they have. For example, the base will likely have flame towers and even possibly a Hawacha. Flame towers are turrets that defend your base with a 360-degree cone of fire by simply pressing your spacebar. The animation only looks 180 degrees, but it's actually 360, so it's all around you. Flame towers not only do damage, but they also knock back players. Even if they're in a protected animation, it knocks them back. So this is critical to any base defense because it keeps them away from your structures and also allows your base defenders to have a better chance to kill these players. Hawachers are rarer, but they are still used, and they are like a ranged volley of arrows. They're slightly more effort, but still relatively easy to operate and can CC players at a much further distance than a flame tower. Both defense tools do big damage to the guild siege elephants, so also critical for that. So if you're not told to be in defense or be on the elephant, you may just be in the main raid, which is usually tasked with just engaging the enemy players directly, besieging their fort, or defending your own if needed. For this, you just want to listen to your shot caller and keep in mind what your class does well, especially if it has good CCs for catching a lot of players, or support abilities for helping your allies. So for example, Shies and Wizards, Witches, and even Valkyries, for heals and other buffs. So keep that in mind as well. You may, in fact, even be told to go on a specific flank, or to get on top of, say you're a lawn, you can get on top of buildings and things, or you could be on anti-cannon duty. So there are a couple different roles, but for the most part, it should be explained to you by your guild leaders. So gear aside, what else will you need? Well, obviously potions. You might want to store potions in your main town or the region that you're fighting in. So if you know you're going to be fighting in Serendia, you want to store them in Heidel, as well as in your central market. Now, you can use maids to grab these, and marketplace maids actually grab more than normal storage maids, and you can get maids for free from the game, which usually allows you to pick between a storage or a marketplace maid. I do recommend marketplace maid more. They are generally more useful than storage. If you are up for the grind, the infinite potions make a massive difference here. I recently acquired my own infinite HP potion, and it saves me an enormous amount of weight, and I never have to worry about potions. It's the best. But it is a big grind. You can also bring giant elixirs to pop. Giant elixirs are pretty good for the stats that they give. You'll need to refresh them if you die, and they last 15 minutes. So if you do live for 15 minutes, you'll need to prop another one. Depending on the tier of node, you can also bring certain perfumes as well. Just be careful that tier 1 node wars, there are some caps on gear. This also includes stats, like say more AP or whatever. This can be limited on what kind of perfumes are even effective. So for example, Deep Sea Elixir is great because it's just critical damage, and then also Spirit Perfume is decent because it gives you a lot of HP. You'll also want to buff up in other ways. Exquisite Crom Meal is the preferred food to use. You'll also want to get villa buffs. So if you don't know what villa buffs are, essentially in Valencia there are various villas you can see on the world map. They give you one of 3 buffs: life skills, grinding XP, or PvP. Now, you can bypass ever going to get a villa invite by having a tent and an Old Moon Book active. This is the pay-to-win tent, by the way. Essentially, the Old Moon Book allows you to get the villa buff from a tent without needing a villa invite. If you have a tent but no Old Moon Book, then you can remotely get the villa buff from the tent without having to physically go to that villa. But at some point, you will need to grab the villa invite, so you do have to go to the villa at some point, just not always to get the buffs. But the positive thing is you actually don't need the PvP villa or a PvP villa for the PvP buff. So you can get any villa and the tent will be able to give you the PvP buff. However, if you don't have a tent and you don't have an Old Moon Book to go with it, then you will need to go to the PvP villa physically to grab first the villa invite, which will last you a week, and then you'll need to go back again to actually get the buffs from that villa. So the closest one is in Gahaz. So if you want to go there for the first time ever, you probably want to bring about 14.5 million. 10 million is for the villa invite, which lasts a week, so you only have to do that once. But then you'll need 4.5 million for the actual 3-hour villa. So keep that in mind. You should grab the 3-hour villa buff 1 hour before the Node War actually starts. However, just be warned that if you are in the Node War channel, you cannot summon your tent within the 10 minutes leading up to the start of the Node War. So the last 10 minutes before the Node War starts, you cannot summon a tent and get those buffs. So you want to make sure you do it beforehand. It lasts for 3 hours, so you can do it well before. You should also grab some polishing stone so that you can prepare your fort. Polishing stone you can get from rough stone. You just have to grind it down, and then you can get rough stone by like going to Pilgrim's Haven in Valencia or something. It's kind of hard to buy it, but it will repair your fort basically during the Node War, so if it takes damage you can actually repair it. Other buffs include the Church buff, which is for tier 1 you want to try and get 150 HP and 8 accuracy, as the other buffs do not help you as they're a part of your cap stats. For this you need some gold bars, and you can also take a house buff which lasts 1 hour, so you want to take it late or at least be on another character to store the time on the buff. There are lots of furnitures that actually give various buffs. You can view them from the central market. You need to place them within a residence to use them, and again, as with before tier 1, you want to choose things that specifically are not capped, such as accuracy. Finally, there is an energy buff of either HP or crit. One is from an NPC in Heidel and the other from Velia. The critical buff is better of the two usually, and this is the one you get from the Heidel NPC. Once you have all this, make sure you hit yes in-game in the guild member page. This is critical as it gives you the teleport that will appear on the top right when the Node War starts, and also allow you to actually hit people. So for the next part of this guide, I want to talk about actually leading a guild into Node Wars for the first time, although I do recommend that even if you're just an individual, staying and watching this part, because understanding more about Node Wars can only help you. To start prepping to jump into Node Wars, your guild will absolutely need all the PvP passive skills unlocked in the guild skill tree. It is also a good idea to get the Command to Gather skill. This is a skill that only the guildmaster can use, and it requires Pledge of Blood, but it allows you to summon your entire guild to a location during a Node War, which is obviously a very powerful tool. You can also take some of the PvP active bonuses, so there are a few of these, such as 1000 HP during the Node War. This is also Pledge of Blood, but this one can be activated by officers also. In order to work on a guild elephant, you'll also need the elephant slots at the bottom of the guild skill list. Guild elephants are a big project, and to be honest with you, I had a lot of help with my own for all the technical details. This game doesn't do a great job of explaining how to get one, but you will need to bid on guild houses to complete the elephant within that time that you have the guild house. There are 2 tiers of elephants, and the second tier, Kaposha, is the one that you want, as well as its respective armor. A tier 1 elephant is very weak in comparison, so I wouldn't even bother registering a tier 1 elephant. Instead, you can use that registration on creating a tier 2 elephant. Elephants summoned by the elephant nursery during the Node Wars will require repair at the guild stable they are at after the Node Wars are done. For ease, I keep Calamity's guild elephant at Velia, for example. When you have the guild skills unlocked and possibly an elephant, and you have a roster of players ready for Node Wars, then comes picking your first node. For your first Node War, I recommend playing a tier 1 easy Node War. You can look up other guilds who are newer as well to place with you on the node with you, or if you are lower in numbers, you can actually form an actual alliance with them, which fuses the guilds in a sense. Let's say you want to place on Bloody Monastery Tier 1 Medium. You will want to place on a Thursday night after Thursday's Node Wars, or during Friday before the cutoff, which is 1 hour before Node War starts, when you can no longer place. Although, keep in mind, this only applies to the tower. You can still place the support structures at any time leading up to the Node War. When in your world map, you can hit the cross swords in the top right, and then click on the node you want to place on. This will highlight a giant red area which indicates the whole Node War zone. You can build within this area. This is obviously the area also the Node War will actually be fought in. You will need to be on that channel of the region of that node. So for this example, you'll need to be on Serendia 1, since Bloody Monastery is in Serendia. Then you will want to pick a location to begin building. Assuming someone hasn't already taken your preferred spot, then you can place. Choosing a location is critical. Each type of base has its ups and downs. For example, if you build in the actual Bloody Monastery here, which has natural choke points to defend pushes and doesn't require as many barricades to keep your whole base secure. However, the problem is there's rooftops and high ground positions that once taken can be used against your guild. Each base should have the same core things. Aside from the tower itself, you want 1 supply depot, 3 recovery centers, 2 flame towers, 1 flag factory, 1 elephant nursery if you have an elephant, an optional cannon observatory if you have a cannon team, Hawacha if you want that extra type of defense, and then possibly a gate. With what points you have left, you can view this by hovering over your base by the way in the world map, you will want barricades. I haven't mentioned cannons, but essentially they're extremely long-range siege equipment. They're excellent at destroying your base and should be a high priority target for you if you're being hit by them. Frankly, they're the most annoying part of Node Wars for me, but they are a powerful tool. You can train a cannon team using practice cannons, but I would actually look for a dedicated guide to help people learn that. Your flame tower should focus on covering the support structures you place in your base, such as your recoveries and your supply depot. They're very vulnerable structures and not nearly as tanky as your fort, which can be repaired using polishing stone. In other words, don't be as concerned about your fort HP as you are about your structures going down. Your fort can be repaired and is really tanky. The recovery centers lower the time at which your players can revive after death, although as the Node War goes on, this time increases regardless. Your revives will be very quick at the start. Your supply depot is arguably the most important structure. It allows you to repair, get your horses out if they die, and it also lets you purchase new structures to place. So if you get recoveries down, you can buy new recoveries, although you should always have backup buildings as a base defense team and officers in your guild. So make sure you have spare things. The flag factory is essentially a mobile placeable spawn point. So if you need to attack a fort that's far away, this allows you to create a much closer spawn point. Once placed, you cannot move or remove it, and you can only place 1. Hopefully this will be changed one day, as you're only allowed 1 flag, and that's kind of annoying. If you have a guild you're working with, so let's say you're working with a guild that's kind of, ally, whatever, you can have them actually go and destroy your flag on purpose so that you can place a new one. When you respawn at the flag, be careful though, you do not have the lingering invulnerability you have when spawning at your base. Elephant Nursery does exactly what you might expect. It summons your elephant after some time. If your elephant dies, however, there is a cooldown before you can immediately start training a new one with the nursery. Flags don't have this cooldown. If you take a flag, you can immediately start producing a new one. Once your base is complete, you should leave in case another guild spots you. Some guilds like to spy and see who's on the node, especially when you place late. The base is invisible to everyone but you and your guild for now, but they can put 2 and 2 together to see what you're doing. In the lead up to the Node War, you will want to remind people who are not in the apprentice stage to buy stun and flame traps from guild NPCs, and you probably want to have your officers and your base defense buy elephant traps. Elephant traps are great against stopping elephants. They basically throw the rider off, the elephant staggers. This is great because if a well-placed trap can cause their elephant to be killed by your flame tower if you trap near a flame tower, or if you have a Hawacha, in fact, the Hawacha can then shoot at the elephant and the rider can't do anything, which can be killed by players because they're no longer on the elephant. Stun and flame traps are excellent against players. Stun traps stun people for 10 seconds. You cannot place stun traps on top of where dead corpses are until they revive, so keep that in mind when you do try to lay out stun traps, but they're a critical tool and you should not neglect them. Flame traps knock people off their horses. Again, this is a critical tool because a lot of people come by and try to destroy your stun traps. To destroy other stun traps, you just want to move through them with protected animations. The best classes for this are basically Musa and Mewa because they can move in full super armor in their dash. It's very fast and it's hard for other guilds to actually kill them while they're blowing up the stun traps. So Huge tool, don't neglect them. In order to actually buy the sun traps, you will need to give what's called allowance to your guild members. So you should probably make them quartermaster as well. This allows them to actually go out and buy specific guild things. If you have a base defense team, you don't have to make them officers so that they can buy backup things. They can buy all kinds of guild supplies as long as they have an allowance. Just be careful, you don't give too much allowance to players. You don't want to have any bad eggs in your guild that exploit the allowance they've been given. If you give them unlimited and you have 2 billion guild allowance, they could spend all that 2 billion on nonsense things. It is the guild's money, so just be careful about that. I would probably say you only need like 20-30 million for traps, and you can refresh that allowance. I also recommend checking out some of the Discord bots for your guild Discord in order to keep track of attendance. There are a couple made specifically for BDO or adapted to BDO. It's always nice to have a rough idea of how many people you can count on being at your node war. You will want to form at least one platoon when you start, forming, get ready for the node war an hour before, 30 minutes before. Just have people like plus up in guild chat, and then you can start inviting them into platoons. So if you do have more than 20 people, you can make more than one platoon as well, and you should probably just have a defense party or platoon of its own separate section. Having people in platoons allows you to not only keep track of your general raid hit points and how many people you have, but also it allows people to open up the map and see where their fellows are if they get lost, but you can also ping in-game to do that as well. You might also want to assign one person to be a diplomat, a person who can contact other guilds to agree to non-aggression pacts or alliances during the node war, because you can expect other guilds will be doing exactly this. You do not want to be the only guild on a node war that's at 5 forts and everyone's got a 2-man alliance and you're just that random guild that gets served down. So having a diplomat is very, very important. It's usually a good idea to put their name on your guild page, so when a guild finds your guild on the node and they look you up, they know exactly who to contact. If you go into a node war, in order to see other bases, you basically just have to hit their fort. So once their fort is hit, then you know who's on the node and where their base is. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the base. Just spotting the base isn't enough. You actually have to hit the physical fort. And that is everything I can think of for right now. As usual, I'll finish this render of this video and I'll remember something I forgot. But if there's anything you have questions on, feel free to ask me in the comment section. I'll try to respond to most things. Thanks for watching and good luck out there.